secretly discussed recording and removing the president from office. Chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Trey Gowdy, weighs in on the controversy surrounding Rosenstein on Sunday Morning Futures with Maria Bartiromo before he questions Rosenstein this week. Watch.
I need to ask Rod what he said, and then we'll get to what he meant. Those may or may not be the same thing. Rod deserves to be heard out, and I appreciate the president talking to him this week, and we're going to talk to him. I want to know what he said, then I want to know what he meant. I want to know whether anyone else was present for these meetings.
Doug McKelway is live from Washington with more. Hey, Doug.
Good afternoon, Mike. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is warning the White House and President Trump to steer clear of comments that could inflame the Rosenstein controversy, fearing it could impact the all-important midterms and potentially the FBI investigation into Brett Kavanaugh. Any talk of a time and date for this Rosenstein meeting is being tamped down.
A date for that hasn't been set. It could be this week. I could see it pushing back another week, given all of the other things that are going on with the Supreme Court.
Democrats are standing by Rosenstein, who is adamant he never considered wearing a wire to record the president and never considered nor broached the topic of the 25th Amendment with cabinet members. That amendment provides procedures for replacing a president who is incapacitated. Democrats say Rosenstein's removal would tarnish the Mueller investigation into Russian collusion.
Rosenstein must stay there to defend the integrity of the investigation until it is finished, and that's very important for the integrity of American democracy.
It has long been speculated that fired FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, who's now a subject of a grand jury probe, may have been the source of the New York Times story about Rosenstein wearing a wire. His memos have now been subpoenaed by 2 House committees.
We have been attempting for months to secure the so-called McCabe memos. Thursday, I issued a subpoena to the Justice Department compelling them to issue the McCabe memos to the Congress.
2 House committees are also set to hear from Deputy Director Rosenstein.
I want to know what he said, then I want to know what he meant. I want to know whether anyone else was present for these meetings. But if your case hinges on the credibility of Andy McCabe, good luck.
Because of the sensitivity of the Kavanaugh investigation, many observers say it is a safe bet that the Rosenstein-Trump meeting will be put off until after the Kavanaugh matter has been resolved one way or the other. Mike?
Doug McKelway, live in Washington. Doug, thanks a lot. For more on this, let's bring in Elena Treen, Associate News Editor and reporter for Axios. Elena, great to have you.
Great to be here.
So what are your expectations going into this President Trump-Rod Rosenstein meeting?
Well, so there's been a lot of moving parts here, but I do think that the meeting will probably be put off until after, one way or another, what happens with Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. That's kind of been the lead focus at the White House right now. But going into it, we had reported last week, Axios, that Rod Rosenstein had verbally offered his resignation to Chief of Staff John Kelly, and this was after that explosive New York Times report.
Right.
The president did say last week when he was at the UN General Assembly that he believed Rod Rosenstein when he says that he didn't do what the report says. However, the president has had a very rocky relationship with Rod Rosenstein for some time, and this has kind of been a catalyst, I think, and almost an excuse for to kind of give him the boot. But it's unclear if the White House and Republicans will want this fight right now, right before, in this Supreme Court nominee process and the confirmation process, as well as right before the midterms.
The president told reporters last week here in New York his preference would be to keep Rosenstein and let him finish out. So does Rosenstein just need to convince the president he's not out to undermine him?
In a bit, I think. Rod Rosenstein, the thing here is there's been a lot of issues between the White House, the Republican Party, and this Justice Department, and they've been doing a pretty decent job so far this past year, and a little bit over that, at discrediting them, especially with regard to the Mueller investigation. And remember, Rod Rosenstein's the one who put Mueller in the job as special counsel, and has kind of given him a long leash to do as he sees fit with this investigation, whereas the president and a lot of conservatives on the Hill believe that it's a witch hunt. So it is going to be a dicey meeting. I think that when they do go into there, if Rosenstein does come out and remains Deputy Attorney General, there will be some guidelines that will be set in that meeting.
Some of the president's allies have suggested firing Rosenstein would be a trap. Still, it seems likely, if you watch the president's Twitter feed, that there will be a shakeup at DOJ before long, right?
Exactly. I mean, there's been a lot of issues going on there. And the president, I mean, look at the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. There's pretty much no one in Washington that the president dislikes more than his Attorney General for recusing himself from this Russia investigation. Next in line is Rod Rosenstein, and he's been the one on the lead on this. So there's been a lot of concerns with how the Justice Department has been running the show, especially with regard to their FBI and this investigation. So it wouldn't be overly surprising if there was a shakeup, but the timing of it is what's really putting this big question mark on it all.
Sure. House Judiciary Committee also wants to speak with Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein. Are they looking for reassurances about the report of wearing a wire and using the 25th Amendment to remove the president?
Definitely. I mean, that was a pretty explosive report, and I think they're going to want to know what was said. They want those memos from Andrew McCabe. They want to verify what Rosenstein's intentions are, because there has been this concern, especially with those on the right, that there is these rumblings within the Justice Department and within the FBI to pretty much discredit the president and the White House and this administration. And so I think they'll be wanting assurances that Rosenstein is 100% behind the president, behind this administration. And I think that this is something that plays, as much as the White House may not want this fight right now, they do recognize, and Republicans on the Hill have told me this, they recognize that this is an issue that really rallies the president's base and really fires up a lot of people on the right, especially as we're heading into the midterms. It's an issue that angers people, and it kind of goes along with that line of thinking of the deep state, and that some people are out to get this administration.
How tense do you think Rosenstein's meeting will be with House lawmakers, as many House Republicans have expressed frustration with DOJ cooperation?
Well, I think that it's very telling that the meeting is behind closed doors, at least for right now. There's been no talk of any public hearing or any sort of testimony from Rosenstein. So I think that behind closed doors, they'll be able to do a lot more than what we would normally see in a public atmosphere. So they'll probably push some really tough questions, really want to get to know what's been going on. And it's a great opportunity to check back in with someone who's at the DOJ and to understand what's really going on the inside.
Do you get a sense the temperature has been lowered between House Republicans and DOJ? There was all this Rosenstein impeachment talk, and maybe that's been tamped down a bit?
I think it has. I think a lot of it has to do with this news cycle. There's been the president, a lot of sources had told us that normally an issue of this magnitude would really have fired up the president and kind of been the #1 priority in his mind. But right now, that is confirming Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. And so there's been a lot going on that's distracted a lot of people, both on the Hill and at the White House. But I think once they can get him in the room and have a chance to basically interrogate him and interrogate not just what was said in that New York Times report, but a lot of other things that have been bothering them about the activity of this Justice Department, they're going to take that opportunity to really go in and get any issues that they have off the table.
And we've talked a great deal about the Kavanaugh confirmation process, the Rosenstein meeting. What we haven't talked about is the Robert Mueller probe, and that could be the other massive story lurking out there, right?
Definitely. Rudy Giuliani, counsel and attorney for President Trump, has been really pushing that he doesn't want any explosion from this investigation to happen before the midterms. They think that it would sway what is going to come of this election. And it's unclear. I mean, Robert Mueller and his team have been very good about keeping a lot of news locked. There's been not a lot of leaks from there, which is what you would want from a special counsel and his team. But you never really know. There's so much that the special counsel has under their behind closed doors that no one knows about. And that's what we've been seeing over the past year with different subpoenas coming out and different indictments, and they kind of come out of nowhere. So you really don't know what to expect. And I don't believe that Special Counsel Robert Mueller is going to use any sort of timeline. He'll put things out there when he sees fit.
37 days from the midterms. Elaine Treen from Axios, thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.
A search for survivors is underway in Indonesia after a magnitude 7.5 earthquake triggers a tsunami. And the death toll rises into the hundreds, the latest on that natural disaster next. Plus, the Assad regime is looking to clear out the last rebel stronghold in Syria. What the country's foreign minister is saying to the millions of refugees who left during the civil war. We go live to the Middle East, coming up.